Hey guys, Atsu here. In this video, we are going to be taking a look at the latest 4-star character to be added to Genshin Impact's character roster. This is going to be Layla, who is sleeping all the time. You might see her idle animation in a moment, but she is going to be a Cryo shield support character that is more of an offensive variation version of Diona. Diona is a lot more defensive because Diona has a shield and can also heal you at the same time, whereas Layla deals a little bit more damage and applies a lot more cryo. So let me show you exactly what's going to happen. Hopefully we get to see the idle animation at some point in the video as well. So as you can see, the first thing is the cooldown of this ability is going to be 12 seconds. The uptime of this shield is going to be 12 seconds, which is very convenient and very nice because it means you don't have any downtime on your shield. Maybe a few seconds depending on your ping, and maybe you might slip up and you don't notice. But for example, with Diona has a lot of downtime by 3 seconds. 3 seconds doesn't sound like a lot, but 3 seconds could be the difference between whether you live or die in Genshin Impact. Now, we also have a very nice elemental burst, which applies a ton of cryo as well, and it's very helpful, for example, if you want to freeze your enemy like this, which is going to be very handy. The team comp that I have here, as you can see guys, is of course going to be something that helps you freeze the enemy a lot, and I mean a lot. So as you can see, very easy to freeze, a lot of cryo application, but that's not all there is to Layla. So let's go ahead, teleport away, and let's take a look at her talents, and then I will tell you guys about the artifacts and the builds and the kind of teams you can be expecting on Layla, as well as taking a look at her constellations as well. So first of all, this is my Layla. We have 41,232 HP on her, 1,039 attack, and she's going to do the very cheeky idle animation. Very funny. I actually really love this idle animation. It's so funny. But yes, and we also have these stats at the moment. So we have around 30,000 bonus HP from our artifacts. We got around 44% crit rate and almost 180 energy recharge. And the weapon I have personally gone for is the Favonia sword. Now, I'm just going to be blunt here guys, the best weapon is by far the Key of Kajni suit, because you get a redonkulous, absolutely ridiculous amount of HP from this weapon at any refinement, and it's going to mean she can go over 50,000 hit points, which is going to be a lot, and it's going to scale with your shield because a shield is going to scale with HP. Now the downside of this is most likely 99.99999% of players in Genshin Impact probably pulled this weapon for Nilou or just didn't pull this weapon at all, in which case you probably don't have this weapon, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. But this one is just simply a stat stick that is better than everything else. Jade Cutter also has a little bit of HP that you can throw in there, but otherwise you don't really want to put too much damage on Layla because she's not really going to be your DPS character. Then on top of that, Sacrificial Sword or Favonia Sword are energy recharge options. I personally go for Favonia Sword because it makes it easier to recharge the abilities of all your other characters on your team as well. On top of that, artifacts. I really think Tenacity of the Millilith is the go-to one here. As you can see, the 4-piece set, it just synchronizes or synergizes really well with Layla's abilities, which is when an elemental skill hits an opponent, the attack of all nearby party members is increased by 20%, and the shield strength is increased by 30% for 3 seconds. This effect can be triggered once every 0.5 seconds, and the way Layla's elemental skill works is it's going to be able to trigger this over and over again. So you're basically going to have almost permanent uptime, if not permanent uptime, on this passive. You can also use Noblesse as well. I think that's another okay support set, but the main one for this is going to be Tenacity of the Millilith. Right now we have talent level 196. I do have this Layla at Constellation 3 just to show you guys what it looks like at the highest level of F2P. Unfortunately, she does require Scaramouche materials, which I do not have any to spare right now. So level 9, this is the best way I can show you level 9. The constellations are not going to be too intrusive to that, but let's begin with the talent. So, Knights of the Formal Focus. This one is going to be where Layla triggers her shield. Puts forth a shield known as the Curtain of Slumber, dealing AoE cryo damage. The Curtain of Slumber's damage absorption is based on Layla's maximum HP and absorbs cryo damage with 250% effectiveness. When the shield is deployed, Layla will have cryo applied to her briefly. So that there is a little bit of an annoying thing because a lot of things react negatively with cryo when it's applied on your yourself, but in return you get a very nice shield with a very nice uptime with a very nice cooldown, which also applies cryo damage. And it doesn't finish there. Night stars and shooting stars. Yes, we have an SA character here, guys. While the Curtain of Slumber is active, it will create one night star that will be attached to it every 1.5 seconds. When a character protected by the shield uses an elemental skill, 2 night stars will be created. Night stars can be created once every 0.3 seconds. A maximum of 4 night stars can be accumulated at any one time. And then once the Curtain of Slumber has accumulated 4 night stars and there are opponents nearby, these night stars will transform into homing shooting stars that will be fired off in sequence, dealing cryo damage to any opponent's hit. That was a lot of text. I'm just going to show you visually how that looks. We're going to approach him here. We'll put down the elemental skill, and as you can see, there is 1 night star there on Layla. There's 2, there's 3, and then there's 4, and now they're all going to fire off and hit the Malphite there. However, if we do this again, we put the shield down, we put 1 E down, we get 2 already, and now we can fire them off instantly. We can do this again, and there's another 4 already. So as you can see, with characters like Xingqiu, who typically use Sacrificial Sword, or even any characters essentially, and any characters that have multiple elemental skill applications as well, you can apply cryo very, very quickly simply off her shield. So every time you use an elemental skill, you're going to get 2 extra stars, and the moment you hit 4 stars, they will go and attack enemies near you as homing missiles. And it's going to be 4 of them, so technically 4 hits of cryo application, which is very, very nice. And then on top of that, you are going to have Layla's elemental burst. So Layla's elemental burst, Dream of the Starstream Shaker, will unleash a celestial dream sphere that constantly fires starlight slugs at opponents within its area of effect, dealing cryo damage. When a starlight slug hits, it will generate 1 night star for nearby Curtains of Slumber, and each Curtain of Slumber can gain 1 night star this way every 0.5 seconds. So what does that mean? Again, it's a little bit of an essay. It means when you use your elemental burst, the night star generation is going to be a lot faster. So essentially it just means a lot more cryo application as well. So we can start with this, we can do this here, and as you can see, the stars are just going to generate a lot faster. They're coming up faster and faster and faster here. So as you can see, very, very straightforward. A lot of cryo application, and the perma freeze is it's pretty much like that. It's very easy to freeze an opponent like this, especially if you're using someone like Xingqiu or Layla. Very, very, very straightforward. Right, Ascension talents. So, Ascension talents like Nascent Light. While the Curtain of Slumber is active, the Deep Sleep effect will activate each time the curtain gains 1 star. And you can have a maximum of 4 stacks with this talent. The shield strength of a character under the effect of Curtain of Slumber increases by 6%. What does this mean? This means you can gain up to 24% shield strength for the character under the effect of Curtain of Slumber, which is going to be nice because it just means the shield is going to be 24% stronger, or can take 24% more damage with its remaining HP with Layla's shield. And then on top of that, we have the next constellation, which is the damage dealt by the shooting stars fired by Knights of Formal Focus is increased by 1.5% of Layla's maximum HP. So what does that mean? You want to build HP. Very, very straightforward. And last but not least, a very nice talent here. When Layla crafts character talent materials, she has a 10% chance to receive double the product. So if you're only going for 4 stars and you don't have Eula, this is actually a really nice talent to have, as opposed to Xingqiu's one, which is going to be a refund one. This is at a slightly smaller chance, gives you a chance to duplicate, which is nice for those purple or / golden talent books or talent materials out there. So Layla's talents overall, I would say, are pretty solid for a 4-star character. What I'm about to show you here, guys, is some Spiral Abyss Floor 12 footage. Believe it or not, this is actually going to be talent level 6 Layla at Constellation 0. Team that I have on the screen right now is Hazo, Yelan, Layla, and Xingqiu. Perma Freeze is the name of the game. The cryo application is great, and with the Favonius sword, you don't really need any other cryo energy for her to recharge her elemental burst. So she is pretty much, if you are going to use an energy recharge weapon, a self-sustaining character and a great shield bot. Having said that, if you still want healing, Diona is an option that you should definitely consider as well with the sacrificial bow, because you don't want to have that downtime. The downtime is quite annoying between the shield. 3 seconds again can be the difference between life or death, especially against difficult enemies in Genshin that hit very, very hard. My recommendation though is, of course, if you are a Layla shrimp, that you do want to consider going for constellations on her as well. So let's take a look at the constellations. So constellation 1 is going to be Fortress of Fantasy. The shield absorption of the Curtain of Slumber generated by Knights of Formal Focus is increased by 20%, which is very, very nice. It basically just means your shield is going to be a little bit stronger as well. And additionally, when unleashing Knights of Formal Focus, she will generate a shield for any nearby party members who are not being protected by a Curtain of Slumber. This shield will have 35% of the absorption of Curtain of Slumber, will last for 12 seconds, and will absorb cryo damage with 250% effectiveness. So for those of you who really like co-op, this is a really nice constellation to have as well, because you're going to be able to give shields to your allies as well, which is very, very nice. Then we have Constellation 2, which is when shooting stars from Knights of Formal Focus strike opponents, they will each restore 1 energy to Layla. Each shooting star can restore energy to her in this manner once. This one I personally don't think is absolutely crazy or insane. It's okay. If you have an energy recharge weapon, you're hardly going to notice this at all. If you have a HP weapon like the Key of Kajni suit though, this is going to be a helpful constellation to have. Constellation 3, very, very straightforward. It's just more levels in the shield. Constellation 4 is going to be when Knights of Formal Focuses starts to fire off shooting stars, it will grant all nearby party members the Dawn Star effect. So again, in co-op, this is going to work for the co-op shields as well, causing their normal and charge attack damage to increase based on 5% of Layla's maximum HP. Dawn Star can last up to 3 seconds and will be removed 0.05 seconds after dealing normal or charged attack damage. Again, this one is pretty interesting as well. How this one works is the moment you start shooting off your 4 shooting stars, all nearby party members are going to get a relatively nice attack buff or damage buff by around anywhere between 1,000 to 2,500-ish. If you have around 50,000 HP, you'll gain around 2,500 bonus damage on one of your next attacks, which is going to be quite nice if I've done my maths correctly. So most people can expect around 1,000 to 2,000 extra damage on their normal or charge attack while they have this buff up. Stream of Consciousness, Constellation 5, again straightforward. It's just going to give you 3 extra talent levels for your elemental burst. And then last but definitely not least, Constellation 6, shooting stars from Knights of Formal Focus deal 40% increased damage, and Starlight Slugs from Dream of the Starstream Shaker deal 40% increased damage. Additionally, the interval between the creation of Night Stars via Knights of Formal Focus is decreased by 20%. This is essentially a DPS constellation and gives you way more cryo application, allows you to apply that cryo a lot more quicker, and of course they will all do a little bit more damage. And at this point, at Constellation 6, you might actually want to consider changing your build to have a little bit more damage focus or crit focus, but outside of that, I still do think HP is going to be your main focus. So to round off the video, here are some team suggestions. They're going to be pretty straightforward. Whatever team Diona can go into, she's not a bad option or replacement. But when it comes to Melt has typically been a reaction that's not been super reliable to do, because it's really hard to get enough cryo out, and Melt typically just dominates, and then what happens is you get a ton of reverse Melt from your support character, which isn't helpful. It's still the case most of the time with Layla, because her cryo application requires your character to be using their elemental skills frequently, and the only one that is a pyro DPS that really does that is our boy Diluc, because the way Diluc attacks is you have your elemental skill, then you do your normal attacks, you have your elemental skill, you do some normal swings, etc, and then you do your elemental burst. And once you've done your elemental burst, you have a pyro infusion on Diluc's normal attacks, in which case Layla then also doesn't have enough cryo application at that point, and you need to be using Layla's cryo application from her burst and also her shield as well to make it really worthwhile. So here is a quick example. I won't really use Bennett or Kazuha here, otherwise it's kind of going to skew the elemental reactions and the damage that you'll see here. So we'll put this down, we've got the shield up, and we've got this down. So as you can see, the cryo application comes back up very quickly above this monster's head, and then it's just very straightforward, just like that. So with Layla, not bad at all when it comes to cryo application. As you can see there, shield is pretty strong, and the main thing, of course, is that she's self-sustaining like this, which is very nice. we might have to dodge that here, and then the shield is back up. And then, again, you can see the cryo. Even though we're melting, the cryo is basically there all the time, which is really, really, really nice. So Diluc is not a bad option to go with Layla when it comes to needing a character that is able to help you melt with Diluc. I know there have been like some really copious methods in the past, like having Chongyun use his cryo application on Diluc and then Diluc swings accordingly. It's annoying, I know, to not have characters that can really help you do melt, because melt is a very powerful reaction. But when it comes to freeze, Layla is definitely a more offensive option than Diona. And for example, if you're going to be using Xingqiu and you're also going to be using Layla, instead of having Diona, who does take a lot of field time occasionally, and her elemental burst is not that, how do I say it, not very intuitive. Sometimes the elemental burst can go really far away. It's a really small circle. It's much nicer to have Layla's elemental burst, where you just put this down and it's going to hit enemies within a pretty decent range and has a good AoE. So the cryo application is a lot more solid when you have this on the field. So yes, I do recommend Layla. I think she's a great 4-star to have even at Constellation 0. Of course, you do want to get her to talent level 9 for her shield, elemental burst as well maybe, but those require Scaramouche materials, so there's no super big rush to level her up right now. I do think though she is a nice character to have. If you do want to make the most of her though, of course you do want constellations, and then you have the talent materials, which are going to take ages, and then you also want the Key of Kajni suit, which you can't really pull for right now, so that's something to keep in mind. But overall, a pretty solid 4-star. I give a nice big thumbs up. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope that has been helpful for you guys. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye bye.